Hello, class. Today we're going to talk about Windows. This is your real introduction into graphical user interfaces, these GUIs. How do we create them? How do we get data into them and to display that information? Last week we did our first Hello World window, right, where we had it just pop up, and I gave you the code and didn't talk about what the code actually means. And today we're going to go through line by line what each of these statements means. Okay, so currently I have that code that I used, and let's skip down to line number 5, past our comment statements. It says from graphics import, and then it's got that asterisk. The way that I read this, I read it from graphics import all. That's what that little asterisk means. It means the English word all, A-L-L. And what it's saying is there's a graphics file, okay, that is accessible to Python that has a bunch of functions on it. And we want to have all of those functions available to us to use. And normally they're not, because this is an external library that someone else wrote. So we're adding this library to Python so that we can use some of the functions inside it. If we skip down to line number 7, here we're creating a function. Last year we saw what functions were, right, and how you can create them. They can take inputs and then they can give you outputs. And some functions just don't take anything and they don't necessarily return anything. And that's what this function is. It doesn't. It's called main, and it's just a function that we're going to put our code in there, and then we're going to call the function so that it executes it. Look at line number 8. Line number 8, we define a window. Okay. We give it the name WIN. That's a variable. Like last year, we created lots of variables. Some we called X, some we gave actual names to them. This is just a variable called win. Okay, this is the function graphwin. Okay, this function graphwin exists inside this graphics library, and the graphwin function takes 3 pieces of information in this example. It takes a string. This string right here becomes the name of the window, the title that you'll actually see printed at the top of the window. And then this 300 and 100. Clearly they're dimensions in pixels. But really, is that height first and then width, or is it width and then height first? There's an easy way to find out. We should just run this code. So I'm going to pull up Python, okay, and we're going to execute this code. So first, let me navigate, just like you do, into the C/code folder, and now I'm going to execute this code. And I'm going to do that by calling Python example1.py. See the window that pops up? Okay. This window is more wide than it is tall. If we look at the numbers 300 and 100, clearly width is first. We have, this is a width of 300 pixels, and it has a height of 100 pixels. Okay, and notice this is where the word hello world appears, up here in the bar that really is the label for the window itself. Now, before I click inside this area right here, notice line 9. Line 9 says win.getMouse. Win.getMouse is a function that is waiting for us to click somewhere inside this window. And once we've clicked, that's all that happens. And then it can move on to line 10, which is win.close, which means close this window. So if I click in here, what should happen is line 9 sees that I clicked within the hello window GUI, and then it will close that window. And then the program's executed. So if I click here, look, the window disappears. Line 12 is where we actually call this function. There's some really good points here. I'm going to comment out line 12, and I'm going to run this program. Does this program actually do anything? Well, it does, but it's not going to give us anything displayed because we never end up calling the function main. By getting rid of line 12, we never call the function that's defined between line 7 and 10. So none of that stuff happens. See, watch. No window. It executes. It imports the graphics library. It defines this function, but the function never gets executed. So when I uncomment line 12, save my file and run it again, you can see this time the window pops back up. Notice what happens when I change this from 100 to 300. Okay. The window changes its perspective. Also notice I can click on that red X right there. When I click that red X, interestingly enough, we get an error that pops up. And it's because I didn't click inside the window, and that's what this program was expecting. What you should do with this assignment is go through the directions that I give you and what my expectations are. But I want to encourage you to play around with this. Do simple things like change these numbers. What if this number said 1300? What does that look like? What if this number is 1000? What does that look like? Okay. Also, what happens when you change like this letter WIN to W? Okay. W is equal to graph win. Does that mean then I guess you're going to need to change these also? Does the program work the same? So that you get a better understanding of what that variable actually is and what it isn't. Okay. Also, what happens if you copy that and create another set of windows and give us a different name, like window 2, right? Or we can call it the variable, window Y. And this could be called window W. What happens? I want you to experiment. I want you to see what happens without me showing you. I want you to get comfortable with trying these things out, learning what your errors are and why they happen. And that's how we can really grow with our programming skills. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you have questions, contact me, but also rewatch this lesson, maybe a second time through, something you missed may help better explain it.